It's ready. Morning, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of the Black Raccoon Education Series. I've got a fabulous guest this morning, Collette Evans from Picture Perfect Photography. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Very good. Excited to present this today.
Absolutely. And I think before we start, Collette, I think it'd be a really good idea just to give the listeners and the watchers an understanding of what it is you do.
Okay, yeah, so I'm a professional photographer. I'm also, in my own time, a bodybuilder, competitive bodybuilder. So obviously got lots of knowledge in the fitness space in general. So I specialise in fitness and commercial photography. And I've been going now in my business for 11 years above. So wow. Yeah, lots of experience that hopefully I can share today.
I think it's really important as well that you do have that background in fitness, because I think for the fact that you are a professional bodybuilder or a competitive bodybuilder, not a professional, but a competitive bodybuilder, you understand what the sort of the poses, the pictures, what people are looking for in their business, whether that be from an individual trainer, whether it be an athlete, whether that be a club itself. And I think that's important, as well as all the other stuff. I mean, you do some amazing brand stuff that you've done, product and retail and so on. You've done amazing stuff there as well. But I think it's nice from a fitness and our listeners that you come from that background, so you understand exactly what they want.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's quite important actually, because I'm technically the target market of either, an online coach, a gym, a brand, supplement brand, or whatever it is, gym equipment brand. So I am actually their target market. So it allows me to communicate that visually to their audience a lot easier.
Absolutely. So, well, you come on today because we're going to be talking about how photography can shape audiences' perceptions. I think this is a fascinating subject, and we've talked about this before. So it's great to have you on. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on your presentation, and I'm going to let you rock and roll. If anybody's got any questions, pop them in the comments, and we'll ask them as we go all towards the end.
Okay, fab. Right, okay, so here we go then. Hopefully this will work. So can you see that awesome. Okay?
Yep. Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. So like I said, I've already introduced myself, so I'm going to skip ahead onto this. Today we're just going to touch on, in the next sort of 30 minutes maybe, we're going to go in quite fast through this, the power of visual branding and how to create impactful content, because there's no point in creating content if it's not of impact. How to create a cohesive aesthetic and storytelling trends, my own photography tips and techniques, how to choose a photographer, and measuring impact, and how to adapt your content strategy. So the strategy is going to be the main sort of anchor throughout this presentation. And at the end of this webinar, I'm going to actually share details on my own strategy workshops, which you can obviously ask me more questions about, either through my socials or I'll leave my details throughout. So I've already shared with you basically my introduction and accomplishments. So, like I said, over 11 years in business, I've worked with over 100 gyms and online coaches. Wow. I think I've done around about 500 fitness physique shoots now. So yeah, I really love working in the fitness industry, and it's really rewarding for me because it is a personal sort of interest as well. So I just tend to bounce off my clients really well in that space. So I've got a studio based in Barnsley as well, but I do travel. So I'm going to skip ahead because we've got quite a lot to get through. And if anyone's got any comments throughout this presentation, then obviously, just let me know and we'll try and answer them. I can't see the comments at the moment, so I'll probably...
That's all right. I'll fill those in for you.
Okay, so I want anyone who's watching to think about, when it comes to content, what do you love? What do you dislike? I'd love to hear from you on that. So drop a comment in if there's anything you love with regards to content and anything you dislike, and I'll try and sort of dispel the myths on content and how it can be stress-free, basically. But we're going to dive in next into the role of photography for social media, because I think in the fitness industry in particular, it is a real key sort of marketing sort of asset, really. The type of content you create is going to be the one that attracts your right audience or attracts your clients. So we're looking at now basically how you stand out in the crowded fitness space. So like, why is photography a key component when we speak about social media, especially if you're an online coach, I think more so, or even a brand? Obviously, the rise of influencers now is very prominent in the fitness industry in general, particularly for brands. But I just think, we want to build your authority. That's the main goal with content. There's no point in creating content for the sake of it. So building your authority in the fitness industry and with people who are looking to maybe work with you on a one-to-one basis or buy your products is really important. So building that trust and expertise, showing that you know what you're on about, is really important. And that can be sped up by the way you present your business online. So if you're presenting something that's a bit sloppy, it does reflect on your business. And I think that goes for any business. So it's important, obviously, you present the best version of yourself and also your business and your brand message as well. So one key way to do this is with the quality and audience relevant content. So content that speaks to your audience specifically, their problems and needs. And it doesn't just cut it anymore and just going, I help women who are 35 to 50 who want to lose weight. You have to be a bit more deeper than that now. It doesn't cut it to just say something very generic. You have to think about the pain points of your ideal client and how you add the most value. So the photos and videos that you put up out there are a representation of your brand, but most importantly, I think, of your knowledge, and it should really showcase you as a fitness professional, whether you're a gym, a brand, or an online coach or personal trainer. So I just want you to ask yourself a question and maybe reflect on this and just have a little audit of your own content. Like, how much engagement do you get from your posts? And then in turn, how many leads does that actually create? And ultimately, how many sales or inquiries do you get from your socials? So maybe give yourself a score out of 10 or start recording it over the next month. And you might be quite surprised. Then you can obviously adapt and make changes if you think you need to up your game a little bit. So moving on to how do we create impact when it comes to photos and videos online, or even graphics and just general social media content. So I think there's 4 key content fundamentals when it comes to the fitness industry. Whether you're an online body transformation coach, you're a gym, you're a fitness professional, you're a brand. So I tend to look at sort of 4 key types of content when I'm looking at working with people for the first time. And we obviously prioritize these in different order, depending on what they've already done in the past or what they're wanting to sort of strive towards as a business. So first and foremost, then, educational content is, I think, one of the most important things. Sharing informative content about, things like workouts, nutrition, health, to educate your audience and show you've got that authority and build that trust over what you're saying is correct, basically. And then number 2, I would say motivational content, 100%. So, you're looking to aim to inspire and motivate your followers with things like success stories, quotes, encouraging messages to keep them engaged and interactive. Maybe even polls and votes on stories is quite good as well on Instagram or even LinkedIn. And then the third one would be visual content. So utilizing high quality images and videos, graphics, and that could be on your phone. Just make sure you've got good lighting, which is a whole nother topic, to be fair. But obviously you can employ a professional photographer or videographer as well. But things like demonstrating exercises, and that kind of comes back into the educational side as well. Showcasing before and after transformations. I always see massive success with that. Every PT or online coach I work with that's done the before and after shoots with me, they've always had good success rate of client retention and also encouraging new people to join, which I'm going to give you an example shortly on that. But maintaining regular communication through your audience with the consistency of posting and interactions as well. Like social media is supposed to be social. It's not supposed to be just sort of like throw it out there and run. So, you know, making sure that you're encouraging people to maybe join to a newsletter or some form of communication, whether it be WhatsApp broadcast list or something, where they can gain other insights into your knowledge. And trying to build like a strong community, you know, to help people. I think that's really key. So it's your social media content should be about a hook to get them into some further communication with you that's a bit more in depth and a bit more consistent. Because when you're looking at social content, you know, it's chanced whether they will see it or not. My goal would always be to get someone on some sort of list where it's a bit more regular contact with you, and it's sort of not haphazard and chanced. So I do have a free sort of content guide for PTs and online coaches. So if anyone wants that guide, I am about to press launch on that guide, and it's a completely free guide with all ideas on types of content you could create. Just so if you want that guide, just send me an email or drop in the comments. If you want that, drop your email in the comments or send me a DM on whatever platform you're listening on today. So, and I'll send it you. So let's have a look at one of the transformations in terms of content from one of my clients next. So this is Julia. Julia owns Be Strong Gym in Rotherham. So on the left-hand side here, you can see the before images were quite blurry, not very colourful, poorly lit. That is one of the big things, I think. You know, it's not very aesthetically pleasing. They did the job, but they just did the job. And, you know, so then we look at her first shoot there on the right-hand side, a lot more vibrant, colourful, more eye-catching and professional, and they reflect better on her as a personal trainer and sort of a gym owner. It's just a lot more inspiring and a lot more clear about that she's taking care and pride in her appearance. So moving on then, I know this is going quite quickly, so if anyone's got any questions at any point, just drop them in the comments. Have we had anyone comment so far?
Just one comment that Mark Holland's put on here and said, given the ASA rules, the Advertising Standards Authority rules on before and after images, how do we convey this in marketing and the photos?
That's a very, very good question. Obviously, if you're working with clients, this is not something I'm going to say I'm an expert on, but if you're working with clients, they will, you know, be happy, say yes or no, I'm happy for you to share those. So if you are concerned about anything like that, I would get some sort of signed agreement. Doesn't have to be anything too official, but, you know,
you can find them online quite easy now. A simple photography. I know a lot of it probably falls under the same categories as when you're taking pictures with kids. You know, the schools ask for consent forms and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
probably the same thing. And I'd probably say, from my experience, is just make sure the pictures are real. that's the other thing. I think when you start putting up fake pictures that have all been changed and messed around with, that's when you start getting yourself into trouble potentially.
Yeah, so you want to, it's called a model release form. So that's what you want to be Googling. If anyone wants a copy of a model release form, I'll happily, I think I've got one in my archive somewhere. So, but generally, like if you're working with clients, then they're going to be happy for you to share their success, but obviously always ask beforehand. So that gets that. So the power of visual branding then. Are we happy? Are we okay to carry on? Yeah. So in terms of the power of visual branding, I think that, you know, look at the two words there, visual and branding. It is more, you know, it's more than just a logo, your visual brand. It's about the sort of related assets and aspects in your photos and videos, whether that be you wearing, like I'm wearing a top today that's got my logo on, and it's, you know, or I've got the studio behind me and a green screen here. I could have come on this live with just I've got a treadmill behind me, which I think keeps popping up, but you know, I'm at home today. It wouldn't be as impactful to not have a green screen behind me, if that makes sense. So always try and, like, if you're having a photo shoot done, maybe bring some props. If your brand colour is purple, maybe try and bring some props that incorporate that colour. It's always that like subliminal messaging, I think, with visual branding. So why is it critical then? Why is that important? You might think I'm just sweating the small stuff there, but I'm not. So it actually makes it instantly recognizable. So if you're at an event and you've got a like my colours are purple, so if I've got like a purple top on and a name badge, that's like makes me like instantly recognizable to people who I've maybe met online. And you know, I've got some t-shirts that say photographer on the back. When I go to events, I always wear it. Like when I go to the Arnold's or whatever Fit Expo, I always make sure I go branded up because it looks more professional. It looks like you care about your brand. So just looking at these images there here on the screen of my client Jimmy, he owns an online coaching company, Jimmy Ray Coaching, and all his shoots. These are two different shoots here. So these two shoots, I've made sure I've used the same coloured lighting, just because his brand colours are blue, and actually his client wore a blue outfit there as well, which I don't think that was planned, but yeah, it just makes, you know, it just builds that connection with his branding. And so when he's posting these pictures on his grid on Instagram and they're side by side, there's a bit of consistency there. I think that's really important to get that consistency. So I think like now in 2023 going into 2024, you know, online perceptions are really important because that's where people go to first generally. They don't tend to look you up, you know, on Google anymore. It used to be Yellow Pages. I'm showing my age now. But like, you know, it's not a case of that anymore. They don't go to you first to speak to you. They'll probably like look you up on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. Then they might go to your website. Then they might look at some of your lives. Like they're always like, everyone's kind of researching you before you even know it now. So having a good perception of your brand and yourself online and your knowledge and your branding is really important. That's the first thing people come to. So just think about how maybe people are perceiving you right now.
I think that's why it's important. Sorry, Collette. I think that's why it's important to have your own pictures, because a lot of clubs will still use the generic, the stock photos for their clubs, and that's fine when you're building websites and you're looking at a lot of stuff. But I think especially on social, where you can have as much of your own content as possible, because people want to see your brand. They want to see the people that are in your club, not some generic club that's in Spain or wherever from around the world. And I think that's a really important point you make when you're talking visual branding. Like these pictures they're pictures of that club. They're not pictures of some random club elsewhere that we're pretending is ours. And I think that can have a massive impact.
Yeah, I think so. And it builds that trust. It goes back to that trust element. So, you know, people, when they actually like walk through the door of that club, it's actually, that is what it is. And it's not going to turn them off straight away. So I think that's, you know, super, super important. So it's like, think about how you shop as well, like yourself. You know, well, your customers or clients, prospects are behaving the same way as you do. So like I said, I'm competing in the World Championships in my bodybuilding in 2.5 weeks' time in France. But this is just a good example. Like I'm now looking at visiting Paris while I'm there, and I'm looking at restaurants. I haven't gone onto their website. Like I've gone into Instagram and Googled like Paris restaurants. Yeah. And then I'm looking at their content and looking at, does the food look appealing? And, you know, they've got pictures of chefs and things like that. And it's like, what's the restaurant look like? That's all visual branding. And that is make or break sometimes with people. If you turn them off straight away, then they're not going to like look into you a bit more. So like maybe do an audit, I'd say, for people, like do an audit of your content today and think, you know, out of a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being terrible and 10 being absolutely amazing, how do the images and videos that you've got represent your brand voice, maybe your authenticity, and just like what you're about as a brand? Like, where do you score on that? And be honest with yourself. Like, would you be compelled to contact you if what you're currently presenting online is, you know, what you've got there. Would you contact you from that? And you've got to be honest with yourself sometimes.
And just a quick one, Collette. What
Yeah.
would you say having images that are taken on a phone that are probably, obviously your images are amazing because that's what you do for a living, but if someone was taking pictures on a phone, is that more powerful if the image is a little bit more raw than it is using a stock image? Would you say?
Yeah, it's a good question. And actually, earlier this week, so Julia, who I showed an example of in the other slide, we did a photo shoot this week, actually, and we did it 50-50. So it was a photo shoot in the gym of her and her PTs who work for her. And we did some not lit, so with my camera, but just natural lighting in the gym. And we did some lit, which were a bit more polished. So it's going to be interesting to see how they perform. I think there is some you know, value sometimes in just taking more raw pictures that are not as polished, but they still look of good quality, if that makes sense.
I think it just comes across to go, it's a natural picture. It's a bit like I guess your natural pictures of you at home will be vastly different to the ones you take for your professional or you're competing. And they will be two different things. And I think sometimes it's quite nice to see that real rather than the polished. This is what we've got on the website, the branding, but this is also our club. This is what we and I always say to clubs when I'm trying to encourage them to do their socials, get as many of those on because they do have that power because people see what you're all about. It's not all about the polished ones are great, clearly, but if you're not able to do that, you can just don't be afraid to take the pictures of the club, the classes of the members and your team just as they are. And put those up because they're just as powerful of portraying the brand and your voice.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's sometimes like people get this thing called content paralysis, as I call it, and they think, oh no, I'll not do it because, and they come up with a million excuses why they can't post that content. It's not high quality enough, or it's not good enough. Obviously, better if you do get it high quality, but then there's a reason why sort of influences exist in there because it's real and it's raw and it's called user generated content now. And I think you've got to have the balance of both. So across the board, you've got to have a mixture of sort of the real and raw, and then also the more polished, like branded stuff. I think a bit of both is good.
Brilliant.
So like I say, if you sort of do an audit on your content, and I'll happily do an audit for anyone as well. I'll be honest with people. So if anyone wants an audit, just let me know. So obviously think about how you're going to get people into your sales funnel as well. How do you stop them scrolling and take notice? So like think about, the educate for me is at the top, or motivate, probably then educate, and then bringing people into that sales funnel further down. Like, how does your content sort of lead people into that funnel? That's why I think like content does need to be strategized and it needs to be created with like an absolute purpose. Because there's so much noise on social media these days that you personally need to stand out, your content needs to stand out. So consistency is absolute key here, I think, as well. So if you can only commit to like 3 posts maybe a week, then just do that, but don't go 7 posts a week and then nothing for a month. That, if you're more consistent with your content, it's going to build up that trust a lot quicker. And it is content on social media is a slow burn. Obviously you can speed it up with paid ads and like getting people into like funnels with lead magnets and things like that. It is an investment in time or in money, but I think it is worth it. But if you've got a strategy, a content purpose, and a direction for your campaign, like focus on really who do you want to work with, then you've got more chance of success than just sort of like putting anything out there, basically. So yeah, I think like just forming a bit of an identity. So that brings me nicely on to my next sort of slide. So looking at my client Ollie here, he shared with me his stats from July this year, when we took this photo, and that was sort of the middle sort of performer in that month. So that's actually coming back to what you've just said, Ryan. Like basically the before and after photos, there's like the real and the raw. And the bottom picture there is the real and raw, where it's on holiday. And then we've got a more polished one in the middle. So it just shows they do perform quite evenly. But like I said, before and afters always do really well. So I think this photo did quite well because he's smiling. It looks great. Photo is clear. He's making eye contact with the camera. Effectively, he's making eye contact with the viewer. So I have tested myself and my own athlete channels on Instagram. If you have a picture of you looking away versus a picture of you looking to camera, the one looking to camera actually engages the most. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
If you've ever tried that, but give it a go. That's my experience anyway.
Interesting though, isn't it? I get, it's probably psychology in the sense of when you talk to someone, if you look into someone in the eyes, they're far more engaging than if you're looking around and whatever. So it may just be as simple as that psychological trick that they feel like you're engaging with them on the photo. So
yeah, like body language is massive. Like if I'm like sat there with my arms folded or like hands here, like people are not going to want to look at me. Whereas if I'm like open and expressive, it's a bit more engaging. So body language on images and videos is very, very important. So not to make people paranoid, but yeah, that's what I found. So like in terms of like forming your content identity, obviously I don't want you to just people to be like, oh, really conscious when they're on camera, but I think you've got to look at knowing your market, who are you trying to attract, know what your end goal is, like business goal or client end goal, who do you want to work with, and also like creating images with variety, like I've just said. So 3 types of posts here, and is testing and measuring which one gets the best response. So doing a content analysis at the end of the month, I think is really insightful because a lot of the time the posts that you think are going to perform like really well, and this is even for myself, like they're not the top performers, but do more of what performs well. And looking at that analysis is on each platform is different. It is really important. So like each platform is different. So LinkedIn might be different to Instagram. I'm pretty much betting it will be. I don't know if you found that, Ryan.
Oh, absolutely. It also, a lot of it's gone towards video as well now. So you tend to find the things like, especially Instagram, Reels work far better. The challenge you have with Instagram is you almost need to make sure, because a lot of people put it in their Reels and their stories and then don't, or put it onto the story, don't put it onto their page. And it's making sure that you've got it so people can have a look in various different places. But it's, I've also worked with some clubs where videos work really well. Some clubs video hasn't worked well at all. And sometimes it's the demographics. It's also having a look at it and knowing, if you know your brand, you might find that Facebook, if you attract an older generation, which some of the clubs that I work with do, they do better on Facebook than they do Instagram because their general population. So I work with a couple of country clubs and stuff like that, and their general age is that 40 plus. Now that's my age group. So I'm definitely far more Facebook, and that's what I've grown up a lot more than Instagram. Obviously, with what I do, I'm more Instagram, but my age group is more Facebook. So you have a look at that and work out where your content goes. And it's the same as the style of content. Who's in your pictures and your videos needs to match your demographics. It's as simple as that. You don't want a young person in there if your demographics is older and vice versa.
Exactly. You need, and this is where it comes down to like knowing your audience. So whenever I start working with a client, it's always, who are you actually trying to attract? Like I've got a client who's a personal trainer. She does specifically, it's like busy mums. Well, I've got a couple actually, it's busy mums. And like, so she's not going to have a male like business person in her pictures. It just would not make sense at all. Absolutely. So that's a really good example there. So like, people tend to attract people like them as well. I find generally. So looking at another example, here's my other client, Gabriella. So we've focused here on, like, she's on a monthly retainer with me. So there's different types of shoots all the time, different types of content opportunities. So for her, we've focused on storytelling. So different aspects, keeping a content mixed up and engaged. So our audience are not just going to see like her in the gym all the time. So we've obviously got, lifestyle at home, studio, gym, outdoors, because she lives near the seaside. So we thought it was quite important to get that sort of like lifestyle element in there. So we're looking at her brand values and the narrative she's going to be telling, and telling her brand values on a personal level as well. So I know she does a lot around eating disorders and things like that. So it's important that we get that food element in as well in a lot of her shoots. And the mission as a PT is to help people. We've been through a strategy with her and an ideal customer profile, and it around sort of like women around sort of like 25 to 45, I think she said. But the idea is that the images we use and we take need to visually connect with her audience, like we've just said, and also the platform is important as well. So if you can see there as well, she's got that sort of purple branding throughout. So we're always trying to think about the branding that, colours, that sort of like connotative colours across her branding and across her images as well. So through props and things like that. So, yeah. So this kind of shows how she's progressed from, on the left-hand side, that's how her profile looked before, and then she's actually working with one of my social media partners as well now, and we've got graphics. It's a little bit more engaging, a bit more varied, a bit more branded. So that's just a quick example. You can see like how it looked before and then afterwards when she's got professionals on the job, basically. So if I want people to look at their own content and think about how they could maybe polish things up a little bit. And again, I'll always happily do a bit of an analysis for someone if they want me to do an audit. So, so if has anyone got any questions at this point?
Nothing's come through it.
Okay, that's all right. So a little sort of quiz now then. What's the average attention span of a human? You guess, right?
About 5 minutes.
Oh no, it's seconds. So it's actually 8.25 seconds.
Right.
Goldfish's attention span is 9 seconds. Gen Z now has a 1 second attention span.
Oh my lord.
Yeah, which is absolutely crazy, isn't it? But that hit home to me when I read that, why content needs to be so strong. It's technically a visual paragraph and it makes your message delivery a lot quicker. So instead of someone having to read through your profile and find it out for themselves, they can literally look, like this picture here from my client, Crush Supplements. They know where it is. They know it's a supplement for people in the gym working out. Yeah. That's what I see there. And it's a lot quicker to look at that and think that without even having to think. So that's why it's important to visually brand yourself correctly. So how do we create that brand, like strong brand identity then? Like I said, it is more than just a logo. And I think in 2023, we need to realize it is more than just a logo. Branding is about many different things: color, tone, personality. Like, I think personality is a big one when you're looking at visuals. And it needs to, like we've said, align with your audience and your customer values. So I think it's important to get a clear vision from your perspective, who your ideal client is before you make the content, not afterwards or on the shoot. Thinking about who are you actually making this content for. So I think having sort of variety in your content is also quite key. So just to keep people engaged in your social content and thinking, what's next? They're always going to be looking, if you post something on your stories, then they're going to be wanting to actually look at it and they feel compelled. If it's the same old boring stuff every single day, they're just going to switch off and think, oh, well, I've seen that before. So here's like one of my clients here is a PT. He's got an online business, and he's got a gym as well. So he runs like strength boot camps and one-to-one PTs. So we've got images here of him running his boot camps, him training, and also like the outside of the building. So if you are local, it's recognizable. So I think the key thing to like great photography sessions is four things. So planning, deciding what mood and tone you want for your images, and then you've got purpose of the content and who you're creating it for, the outcome, what the call to action is, and what you want people to do once they've seen that piece of content and engage with you. And then like create a mood board as well, with a common theme for that photo shoot before you do the shoot. So then once you've done that mood board, consider how this will be perceived with the viewer across the next month or quarter. It's not just about that day or that week.
Yeah.
It's looking how consistent that is with the brand messaging across a longer period, because you will find actually it takes like maybe 6 weeks for someone to actually like get to know you as a brand online. It's a lot slower. So it needs to be consistent. If you're posting like mums, like, you know, mums 1 week and then the next week's business owners and the next week's something else, like it's going to be really confusing for people to follow what you're about. So just keep consistent. It'll probably get quite boring for you, but for your audience, you know, it'll be a bit more clear then. Also, like, you can look at this if you create the content first. So you create the plan, mood board, and decide who you're going for. Then create the content. Then use a scheduler such as like Hootsuite or Social Bee. You can view it on a grid visually and see how it's actually going to look and be perceived by your audience.
Yeah.
And just be, like I said, be consistent with your posts as well. So no stop starts. So that's where getting organized ahead of time is really, really important. So in terms of crafting a cohesive message, I think, you know, you've got to look at how you're actually going to do that then. So I've got a brand example now of one of my clients, Super Botanics, who are a natural supplement manufacturer in the UK. So when I first started working with them in 2021, the social media images were really inconsistent. So I've been working hard ever since to bring the visual brand up with consistency and also aligning with like their audience's values. So this includes product images and website images. So like, I think looking at their sort of example, then we're looking at sort of creating pictures that are maybe lifestyle relatable. So showing it's not just for gym users, it's just for general health. So looking at images that actually relate to the end consumer's sort of lifestyle, looking at aesthetics that they're clean and clear, and it connects back to that natural element, which is why I've used sort of leaves in this last lot of pictures and more natural sort of materials, if you like, in some pictures. And looking at style and tone. So the style of your images is going to be a visual demonstration of who you are, what your brand's about. So I think it's important because it creates emotive content. I think like emotive content now is really, really important because it's relatable to your audience. It creates a bit of a connection with them. So between you and your audience, you create a connection, but basically then, so if that sort of it instills, I don't know, like ethics, I suppose. Yeah. So you can do this whether you're a club, whether you're an online coach, whether you're a brand. You can do this in every single way. So like just looking at this next example here, Eddie is an online coach, personal trainer, and he owns a gym, which you can see here on screen. So we do a variety of different content of him as an athlete, a bodybuilder, but also showing him with his clients and also members of the gym and actually the facilities. So we've got that different content variety there. But again, he wants to attract women or bodybuilders, so we mix up the content there as well. So I think it's important not to sacrifice your brand identity through visuals and just making sure that you're pinpointing on who you want to attract. So if we're looking at that then, and sort of trends, I think are more prominent coming into 2023, 2024. So like things like using bold colours, whether you're a brand or you are a club, there's different ways you can do this, whether it's through things you wear, graphics, can add graphics to it. It can just, bold colours on socials tend to just grab people's attention a lot better. Lifestyle aesthetics, so showcasing services or products in a unique and encouraging ways. So it might include examples of like how you work or highlighting different features, how you can enhance someone's life. And then the other key trend is well-being, which obviously is very relevant to the fitness industry. But I think we need to be showing both mental and physical health benefits of your service or your club or whatever it is you're offering. Because I think now mental health is also a real big talking point. So I think every single brand that are involved in this industry should be addressing that. And then looking at education then, so mainly through graphics and video reels, like you said, like videos are very, very important now. Show people like your product or service or facility will make people's lives better, but also build that authenticity and trust. So in terms of like other things, I think looking at a sense of community and interaction is important, especially when you're looking at clubs and gyms, showing people coming together. I think after like the lockdowns and the, COVID, like people, I feel, I don't know about you, Ryan, but I feel that people have, enjoyed being back together again, and that social element of fitness and the fitness industry. So
I think I think they were trying to push the online message, weren't they? So quite a few people, well, the likes of Peloton and stuff like that were trying to push that, and that was going to be the new thing. But as soon as we reopened back up, people went back to brick and mortar because they wanted the social aspect of training. So absolutely, community is so much stronger now than it was pre-pandemic.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it is switching. I think there's just a real pushback now for people to get out there and but it's took a good few years. Like even with like business networking, I think, it's took a good few years for people to get back out there and getting back in the habit of being out there. So I think if you're promoting that social and community element, it's going to really resonate with people. And obviously that can be done through your socials, through even like lives like this is really good. But looking at also interactive video and shorts, 360-degree videos as well, is, I think, a real good way to show off a gym facility or a PT studio, showing people around and sort of getting them in the door without getting them in the door. Real good idea. And user-generated content shows that real and raw and creates trust. And then lastly, like storytelling, so inspiring your viewer with authentic narratives, success stories, that sort of thing is really good. So they're sort of the key content trends for autumn, winter 2023-24, in my opinion. So I'm going to keep going at this pace because I've got quite a lot to say and get through. But we're coming to the last segment now. So like my 4 pro steps to creating and upgrading your fitness social content would be, so are we ready? So content strategy. So creating a content plan aligned with your business and brand goals, which is kind of summarizing what I've already said so far. So in terms of photography and video, shoot lots of variety and select the most impactful photographs for display on social media. Look at your composition, your lighting, and your message it promotes and what it's promoting over the whole month, not just for that day. Be consistent, employ themes in your content. For example, I quite like doing it with days of the week themes. So like maybe Motivation Monday, Wellness Wednesday, Food Friday, Training Tuesday, that sort of thing. It can just keep everything a little bit consistent, a bit more balanced. And lastly, include different types of content. So as in, by that I mean like GIFs, reels, longer form video, and photography as well. So that they could all be then sort of rolled out with like product and service based focus, people focus, consumer and lifestyle focus, but keep people guessing basically, and just keep people engaged in that different types of content. But I think like most importantly, the one thing I would say is don't be afraid to be like bold. Oh. One sec. My screen's just got off for some reason.
There we go. I think we've got
yeah, sorry about that, guys. So yeah, just don't be afraid to keep people guessing and be bold and courageous. So yeah. So in terms of consistency, I'm just going to run through these real quick, but like identify where, first and foremost, where to direct your attention, maintain consistent visual branding and identity, learn about the different types of social platforms where your audience is going to be and what types of content is going to be on those platforms, and align your content with it. But making a content plan before you create the content. I know I keep going on about this, but like it's so important. And it stops you having that content paralysis and that overwhelm when you're putting your efforts into creating the content. So it's like nothing worse than not knowing what to post. So I think, and just putting anything out there. So having a bit of a strategy around that is really important. So also make sure you're like looking at your value, your expertise, and is it entertaining for people or is it going to switch them off? So consider also, I would say, using your personal brand as well. So to sort of grow your business. So in terms of like an example of this is like how I've grown my own photography business with my personal athlete brand. So I make sure I do have some content that crosses over from myself to Picture Perfect. But it just works really well if you can make them complement each other ideally. You can't always, but yeah, not just posting basically what you had for tea on your personal profile, but utilize that space, utilize that platform of your own profiles basically, and let that springboard you into your business. If you're going to put the effort into posting, you may as well make it worthwhile.
Absolutely.
So how do we measure the content that we actually put out there then? And how do we adapt it? How do we measure success? Well, I think looking at how effective something is, obviously we can look at analytics and what's top performing. So we need to test and measure. That's the one key thing I would say, like test, like I said, don't be afraid to be bold. Make sure you're going to put different things out there, take a bit of a gamble sometimes, but then always come back to the end of the month and think, right, what worked well, what didn't. Don't play it safe, because if you think, oh, that won't work, it won't, because you'll have not done it. So make sure you're looking at your competitors as well. What are they doing? What success, have they had in their content? And, that can then fast track what you're doing, or you could do something completely different and be ahead of them. So they do say that success leaves clues, don't they? So yeah, exactly. Look at what other people are doing and then maybe enhance on that. So looking at choosing a good photographer then, we're on the last couple of slides now. So if anyone's got any bubbling questions, please feel free to ask. Obviously, you can drop either as a DM at any point. But my tips, if you are looking at working with a professional photographer like myself, then there's lots of things on the screen here, but it usually comes down to, can they deliver what you need? Does the portfolio align with your vision and values and style? Can they deliver on time? Do you have any deadlines that you need to hit? What's the communication like from the start? Are they really good, or do they just sort of like take days to communicate with you and it becomes a bit of a stress? do you need them to be in a specific place or location? Are they located near you? And obviously, everyone asks this when you inquire with anyone, like, what have you got a budget for this? But it's actually a really good idea to have an idea of like what you want them to do. You can't just say, I need photos. Is it going to be a long-term thing, a short-term thing, or do you maybe need a couple of photo shoots? You know, what sort of commitment do you need to put in to actually creating that content with them? Or what, you know, what do you actually want to achieve from it? So I think like looking at a photographer who can be, flexible in their approach to working with you as well is really, really important. So we've discussed the importance so far then of adapting a content strategy and forming a plan, creating content that speaks to your audience, the importance of quality and consistency, and how to choose a photographer. So like, as an expert in content creation with over 21 years of experience and 11 years of that fitness industry, like, I can definitely assist you in creating and maintain a visually appealing brand presence, either through one-off shoots or monthly content packages, or strategy as well, which I also offer. So I think like my main goal would be, if I were working with someone, to unlock their creative thinking. I think it becomes more than just about content. It becomes about getting a focus and a direction and creating opportunities for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
I think it gets them thinking as well, Collette. I think if a lot of my clients who have had professional photographers in over the years, it changes their aspect in how they look at their club. I think that's, even if someone does it as a one-off to see whether it's something they want to do more of a longer term and a regular thing, get that one-off done, and then obviously work with the photographer, obviously work with yourself particularly, but have that done, because it gives you a different look at your club and how you can express what it's all about. So it's definitely worth having, even if it's just that one-off, and then go from there. But obviously having regular is better. But I think every club should invest and have some professional stuff done.
Yeah, I always said to anyone who was new with me, either said, start with a content strategy and I'll help you plan your content out and find out who you wanted to target and how we can make that content speak to that audience. Or just book me for a one-off shoot and then we will look, if you want something more regular, we will look at that afterwards, because you need to gel with your photographer. So I always say, like, you need that confidence that you're going to get from them what you need, and how they work is how you want to work as well. So I think that's really important. So I'm going to basically bring this to a close now. I appreciate I've been on for about 50 minutes. I've so much value to give, I can't help it. So here's my details on screen. You can book a strategy session with me or just a free discovery call. But yeah, if anyone's got any questions, my inbox is always open. My email's on screen there. Thank you for listening. And if anyone wants these slides sent in, I'd be happy to send them. And I think this video is also going to be distributed as well. Is it, Ryan?
Yeah, so it will stay on the social channels, so they can pick it from there. So you should be able to see it on there. But we'll also send it to Collette, so you can fire it out on your channel. So if anyone wants to reach out, obviously reach out to Collette directly, or if you, for whatever reason, want to reach out to me, and I'll do your connection to Collette, so that you can link up. But definitely, thank you ever so much for coming on this morning. I know it takes a lot of time to create such presentations, so really appreciate your time, Collette. And if anyone's got any questions to follow up on this, feel free to get in touch with myself or Collette directly.
Yeah, and obviously that free download for the content ideas as well. If anyone wants that free download, I'll be happy to send it over. Like I said, I should be going live on that this week. So yeah, been really good. I've enjoyed it. Enjoyed sharing my knowledge. So yeah, shall I? I think I can stop sharing this now.
Yeah, so we've stopped doing that. So what we'll do, we'll end the live there. And if anybody's got any questions, to get in touch with Collette directly. Thanks very much for your time, Collette.
Thank you so much for having me, Ryan, and thank you everyone for watching.